没有走完的路不会是终点，故事的走向是自己选择的坚持。
这个故事的开头还算不错，相信过程，相信自己走过的路。
那些最激动人心的冒险，从来不是单枪匹马的挑战。
과거는 잊으세요. 내일이 새로운 시작입니다. 내 경기가 새로운 도전입니다.
我们愿意为胜利付出许多代价，改变只是其中之一。
어떤 사람이든 현재에 만족하지 않고 어떠한 사람이든 제자리 걸음을 하지 않는다.
过去的荣耀就存留在记忆中，这一抹红色要照亮未来。
为之付出的心血越多，收获的果实才越甘甜。
赛场上的事怎能尽如人意？我只想追求无愧于心。
保持微笑，胜利总会专顾你。
在尝过赢得一切的滋味之后，你绝对不会甘心做第二名。
尖矛和利刃是勇者的武器，也有最坚硬的盾和扬起风帆的大旗。
如果翻不过这座山， 他们就听不到你的故事。
这个故事的结局将由我们来谱写。为了无悔，为了胜利，为了站在世界这边。
Good evening and welcome to tonight's exhilarating broadcast of the LPL. Fans have congregated at arenas spread across the east of the East. For tonight, the East is beast and the gloves are definitely coming off. So sit back, pop a health pot, for we have prepared all the bells and whistles for tonight's broadcast. And we know that we are probably preaching to the choir, for every summoner back at home already knows that this is the best damn league in the world. We've got tons of action, plenty of fights to watch here today, and maybe a madman running around at the top lane with bees that just fly absolutely everywhere. The first matchup, LGD taking on BLG, two teams currently at the bottom of the Eastern Conference trying to fight to stay second last place, moving towards Rift Rivals and Cross Conference. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Matthew Stewart. Joining me on the desk tonight is my analyst, Zach Rusty Pie. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. That was a very long-winded intro. Well done, Fish.
We were going through...
You persevered.
We were going through lots and lots of pictures of the arena in Hangzhou where the first match is going to be played today. We are still at the Shanghai Superbrand Mall Arena, but we will bring you all the action from the three matches we have today. But first, let's take a look at how the standings in the LPL currently stand, because we still have two undefeated teams sitting at the top of the table. It's going to be Rogue Warriors as well as Invictus Gaming.
Absolutely. Both powerhouses right now. Rogue Warriors do not look like slowing down, and IG, still without the Shy, have not looked like losing a game themselves as well. Very strong top of the table teams.
Very, very strong. We get to see all four of those teams play this week. On top of that, they are the four teams that will be representing the LPL Rift Rivals. But let's first take a look at the matches that we have today. Because first up, it is going to be BLG taking on LGD at the Hangzhou Arena, followed by JD taking on Vici here in Shanghai.
That's right. We're not just seeing the top of the table clashes this weekend. We are seeing the bottom of the table clashes as well. This first set is 6th versus 7th in the Eastern Conference. So still a lot on the line, just for a very different thing.
But finally, to finish today, live from Beijing at 7 o'clock China Standard Time, we have the match of the week. If you haven't called Raz's mom, call her, because Raz said you need to call her and tell everybody about this match, because it's going to be the best end game you've ever seen.
It's a big deal. It's the finals that could have been from the spring split. It is the game that you need to watch if you watch anything from the LPL. So as Fish said, tell Raz's mum because he requested it. Just tell everyone, really, I guess.
Tell your friends, 7 o'clock China Standard Time, but we still have two amazing matches from the Eastern Conference to go through first. Before we get into those matches, we have you covered if you want to listen about what's been going on in this week of the LPL, as well as moving into Rift Rivals next week. We have an LPL podcast, the last podcast left. This episode was filmed with myself, Raz, as well as Richard. You went there, Rusty. Why didn't you come join us for the podcast?
I mean, I was probably asleep. It's a very early podcast, and man's got to sleep, you know?
That's true. Something about the OPL show putting it at 7 o'clock in the morning, and now Raz is like, we're doing it at 8:30. I can't deal with this anymore. But if you want to watch it, the link was on your screen just there, youtube.com/LPL content. All the podcast episodes will be uploaded there. And with that aside, we can get straight into the first match that we have here today, Rusty, because it's going to be BLG taking on LGD.
Yeah, and first and foremost, we mentioned this already, it is 6th versus 7th in the league, so this is not going to be a top-of-the-table clash, it's not going to be our match of the week that is the 3rd set today, but there's still a lot on the line for both of these respective teams. For LGD, they've been actively trying to improve, constantly changing pieces now to try and find the correct pieces for the puzzle that they're trying to solve. For BLG, I feel like the pieces are in place. They've just never really been able to hit it home this split, and they just need to find themselves again.
Because it really felt like BLG started the split strong. Their first couple of games, although they had losses, looked pretty good coming up from the roster, but they just started to deteriorate over time. And we know that they have good duos in the mid lane as well as jungle, with the likes of Chieftain as well as Mole. But today they're starting Athena in the mid lane to go with Mianhua, their new jungler there, and they had such a good performance at Demacia Cup as well.
Exactly. They were the finalists in Demacia Cup, so they should have been able to, you would expect, to carry that momentum through to the LPL, but now 1-4, dire straits for the first part of their regular conference play.
Yeah, it's important for them to try and pick up a victory here because it's the last regular conference match for them before moving into cross-conference after Rift Rivals. But let's take a look at a deeper dive into this matchup, because primarily, we're always going to be looking into the top lane when it comes to BLG. Amazing J was one of the miracle players on the IMA roster when they made the run to the World Championship. He's still there, and he's still the exact same Amazing J.
Yeah, the heart and soul of the team still remains for BLG, absolutely, through Amazing J. Now, he's got some very flattering stats that you'll see on your screen here. Damage taken per minute and damage taken as a percentage are the two that I want to highlight first and foremost, because not even a lot of champions, mostly mid laners and AD carries, the only ones that can even hit damage dealt per minute above 700, but he finds a way to take it, which means ultimately he's there with his team the entire time, and you can tell that because over a quarter of the damage that the entire team takes is just him in a 5-man roster.
He's just a big squishy sponge. He's up against Jinu, however, who was a promising top laner that started for LGD in the spring split, now transferring over to summer, has a decent amount of solo kills, plays primarily bruisers, split pushes, and carries in the top lane.
Very different style shift between these top laners, and when this matchup plays out, I'm super curious to see how it does go. Solo kills are there for Jinu. He tries to find those even in the spring split, and his kill participation, surprisingly high among top laners, still only 53%, but that's because he's got the bruises, and he usually draws the attention to him.
And Amazing J does participate in teamfights quite frequently, and he also has 100% initiation success, Rusty. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty significant number, isn't it? If only he hadn't only initiated 4 times in the entire LPL so far. We don't really have a lot of sample size to go with from that. So 100%, good number, you take it. But 4 initiations with 3 Ornn games played, that's pretty surprising.
That's about as many bullets as Jin currently has in his auto attacks. But I mean, the statistics aside of only having 4 initiations, he's also playing with a roster that has Road in the squad.
Yes.
And Road is really well known to be an initiation-based support for BLG as well. So it could be because he is starting the fights, and then we have Amazing J following up.
I will say that for BLG, whilst that may be true, when we have seen Road initiate, it's usually not as good as when Amazing J can initiate. And I know 100% is a bit far-fetched to say that will continue through for the whole split, but Amazing J has always been the shot caller for the team, a major part of the communications, and that's why he's actually very good at engaging for them. And to see that now a lot of that onus has moved towards Road is not always a good thing to see, but I guess the meta has kind of also shifted in that way, and it puts more pressure onto Road to make the plays.
It's a little bit more isolated with top lane. They still run teleport quite frequently, but even bottom lane is all over the place, so there is a lot of pressure on Road to make the plays, but a lot of pressure on him to try and protect the carry in the bottom lane. We can't even call it an AD carry anymore because the meta is so flexible.
He's a bot laner.
Often we see champions like Vladimir, Yasuo being thrown into that bottom lane as well, and LGD as well as BLG are 2 teams that can do just that.
Absolutely. Now for LGD, Y4 has been playing the AD carries, but there's always the potential. We've seen some Swains running around that all of the ADs have taken to incredibly quickly. Vladimir's the other one. There are some we haven't seen, like the Ziggs, that I look forward to perhaps exploring a little bit further. For the side of BLG, I would expect that they welcome the shift in this meta, that Road embraces that chaos, and that's something that you would hope they are able to work out and be successful with. But ultimately, so far, they're still 1-4.
Yeah.
That's why I like that they've changed the roster.
And momentum coming out of the Demacia Cup just didn't seem enough because, again, we've already touched on this, but their first couple of games were promising, even in the matches that they started to lose. However, recently they've been looking in like they've been in a dire situation, off form. But let's take a look at their roster for the first match against LGD. Amazing J, Mianhua, Athena, as well as Jinjiao and Road.
Yeah, Mianhua and Athena, the two that come in tandem, Chieftain and Mole on the subs right now. So definitely that's the duo we'll see. Don't be surprised if they swap, if BLG lose that first game.
We're known for their duo capabilities. Athena was starting for BLG previously, but since Chieftain and Mole jumped into the roster, they've been looking good in Spring Split. However, since Demacia Cup, since summer, not being able to follow through. So I'm very curious to see how they use that duo, how they swap things up as this game progresses against LGD, running Jinnu, Amy, Yuki, as well as Y4 and PYL.
And Yuki has always been someone that has been a rising star for them. Of course, Nanzu, the other sub for them in the middle lane. We didn't really notice a difference between Yuki and Nanzu, but LGD were constantly swapping them. And I think recently we've started to see more and more of that. But still, PYL persists, Y4 starts, new coach in for LGD, fully revamping themselves, and the opportunity is there for them to continue to grow.
And we often talk about Spring Split being the split where you have to try and develop your team for summer to try and make that World Championship run. LGD's kind of fallen into the trap that we've seen a couple of the lower end LPL teams fall into, which is they've rebuilt during spring, but they're still rebuilding during summer. How successful do you feel like it's been so far for them?
I mean, what I will say is for LGD, they've taken a different kind of initiative when it comes to rebuilding. They haven't just hired a new coach and said he will be the thing that solves our problems. He's the North Star. Coach. They've actually rented one from another team. They've borrowed a coach and they've said, this guy is proven to work. We'll see what he does, how it works. We'll get him to make us all better. And then we'll find a coach that can replicate the good things that he's doing is perhaps a viable opportunity for them right now. And they've already started with 1 week. They had a new coach. Next week, they pick up a new AD carry. And it's a very smart choice as well in Y4. Someone that wasn't going to see playtime for RNG anymore just because Abel and Uzi were there. And he's a good player. We never saw bad things from him, and he's also competed internationally.
I mean, it could be like the Australian property market. Rusty, it's too expensive to buy, so all you've got to do is rent. That's what LG is doing with their coach. But Y4 playing as the AD carry, like you were mentioning just then, has been a huge difference for LGD. Yes, they still have a couple of AD carries on their bench, and Imp is no longer with the roster. But even then, just swapping around a couple of positions here and there has already made them look like a more holistic team.
Yeah, the thing is, like, most people will look at LGD and they'll be like, oh, Imp's gone. That's over. They're done. Worst team ever now. I was only here for Imp because he's a god. But Imp hasn't been a god for quite some time, right? And that context is important. I just need to get that one out there. I think Y4 is a better fit for the current LGD. First and foremost, because it's a mental change. Like, they were too comfortable in that bottom lane, PYL and Imp. They weren't a dynamic duo anymore. They were just a bottom lane that has played together for a long time. So I think it's a good first step and a good first change for them. I think hopefully that continues to change PYL's mindset and that he doesn't get too cozy down there now, that he's got a new hungry AD carry with him.
I think Dom was the oracle in this situation because when I was at Hangzhou filming for one of the Culture Shock episodes we did, he messaged me, said, can you please get me an Imp LGD jersey? And I was like, yeah, sure, why? And his reply was, I feel like that's going to go out of stock soon. It'll no longer be a thing. Just have this feeling. And turns out, sure enough, he moves over to Team WE. LGD bring in 2 new AD carries. Yeah. But we also have to highlight their mid laner because not just have their AD carries been performing well, Yuki's had a couple of standout matches.
Yuki certainly has. Now, for LGD, when they have won a game, they've won 3 total, it's been Yuki hard carrying. But he's only had 1 champion when he has hard carried, so this is a pretty big draft implication here. Aurelia, very obviously someone that has been focused in the pick ban phase a lot. But 11.7 KDA is massive. And the fact that all of their victories revolve around him playing super well as Aurelia, I'm seeing a recipe here if I was BLG. I think it's a pretty clear-cut recipe that they should follow.
So you're not trying to draw conclusions, but there's a pretty obvious conclusion to draw in this situation.
I don't want to make assumptions or anything from the stats. You know, usually they complement an idea, but I'm pretty sure this one's obvious and that they might want to draw a conclusion here.
Because moving from the 11.7 KDA that he has on Aurelia, if he jumps onto any other champion, it drops down to something like 2 KDA, which is quite a big cliff to drop off of, and that's the champion that LGD constantly win on. So curious to see how they're going to be able to utilize him. You already said there's other substitutes on the bench. They're looking towards the new bottom lane, even not new top lane, or previously new top lane during the spring split of Jinnu having a good performance so far.
Yeah, Jinnu's the one that has been surprisingly not as good as he was in the last split. If you remember back, Jinnu in spring, he was playing Riven, he was getting solo kills on his opponents, he was quickly becoming the star of LGD and where the attention was focusing towards and shifting. This time around, I think that he's really just gone back to where he was originally, doesn't find the solo kills anymore, in fact finds solo deaths, and hasn't looked nearly as good as he could. and that's ultimately a positive for LGD in the future.
Well, let's see what's going to happen moving into this first match. This is normally where we toss to the casters, but bad luck, Peanuts. We are your casters for this match. We're getting traded to Champions Select for game number 1. LGD taking on BLG. I've already been told that that is underway and live. So let's go through all the bans that have gone through already. Nocturne, Talia, as well as the Heimatdonga being taken away by LGD. Irelia banned out against Yuki with Aatrox, Illusion hitting the bench. Swain, the first pick that comes out from BLG with Draven, as well as Camille locked in for LGD.
Draven for the first pick of LGD.
Bring
That's
it
a
on!
surprise if ever I have seen it, but you're right, they get rid of the Irelia BLG, so perhaps they have been the ones who really started this on the right foot.
My goodness, already taking away that signature champion, the one that we said 11.7 KDA for Yuki. They've been doing their stats research as well, Rusty. It's not just you with all the smarts on this broadcast, it seems. BLG's coach, making sure they're doing the work. Jax being locked in, as well as Darius. Already 2 bruisers and a battle mage being picked up by BLG.
Darius should be the top laner for Amazing J, and Jax should be the one going into the jungle position, but we have seen Jax AD lately. I think it was Fury from Suning Gaming was actually the one who picked that up and looked good into the bottom lane. And that Counter-Strike available into AD carry is always a viable opportunity, but at the same time, that tends to be where the Swain goes. So I'm really not sure for BLG, but I think early speculation should be Darius top, Jax jungle, Swain bottom.
Because we saw Jax jungle during the spring split as well, sparingly and a couple of times being thrown into the top lane. Although Amazing J is a tank sort of player, his pocket pick has always been Darius, even when it's not in meta. So curious to see.
And Garen. Don't you worry.
Please no. As well as Garen. Hopefully we get that being thrown into the mix as well. But for the side of LGD, their final pick for the first draft rotation was Zoe being thrown into the mid lane for Yuki.
Yeah, Zoe's a good pickup. I actually think Zoe away from Athena first and foremost is what they were looking towards, not just a pick for Yuki. Athena's one champion of Spring was Zoe. That was the one thing that brought him back into the starting roster for BLG. And I think you'd be very happily able to find out that it's continued through that way. But he may have other champions. That's what we're going to have to explore.
Yeah, probably Jax or Darius in the mid lane. What do you think?
I really don't know.
Let's see what Athena can pull out. But as far as the final 2 bans from BLG is Singed as well as Morgana. LGD decided to take away Lulu and Malzahar. So still throwing mid lane bans at Athena.
Of course, the top laner now secured for the side of LGD with Jinnu locking that Mundo. Has a big tank up there and is against a Darius, presumably. Now, that isn't the best matchup for a Mundo. No. Tends to fall down in farm, but will survive. Usually survives. He should never get kill threat range for health unless he makes a mistake.
We saw that in yesterday's matchup, but Darius going up against a Dr. Mundo. It was heavily in favor of Darius' position in the lane to the point where they were able to dive Dr. Mundo very early into the matchup. So let's see if that's going to be thrown into the top lane. But BLG, they're just throwing the kitchen sink and more during this draft phase because Galio is getting locked in as their 4th pick.
Yeah, I really like this. We haven't seen a lot of Galio in the LPL, and we've only just started seeing it globally as well, pretty much at the same time. Now, I don't think there's been any crazy changes to him. I think it's just, you know, went under the radar a little bit more. We're in a bruiser meta. And we're...
Oh, yes!
We're going to get the Pyke as well. But we're in a bruiser meta where Galio can excel. We're at a point in the meta where I feel like he has a place, and he's against an AD carry, so perhaps that's what they were looking for.
Then what do you think about the Pyke? We're in a bruiser meta. Is that somewhere that he fits in as the newest champion to the league?
I think Pyke's pretty risky to pick blind, but against Draven, it's one of my favorite Pyke matchups because you know where Draven's walking. Pretty easy to hit the hook, or he misses the axe and then misses damage.
Y4 going into the bottom lane on Draven, paired up with a Tahm Kench picked up by PYL. Draven's that one champion that we kind of skimmed through during Champion Select as we finally get to see where these champions go for the side of BLG. We theorized that it was going to be one of the more popular picks in the bottom lane as an AD carry because he pretty much went through no changes, but was only played by people who had that pocket pick, wasn't actually played too much, and just only shown up a couple of times. Seems like Y4 is comfortable in the champion to play it.
Only Draven mains pick Draven even when he becomes meta for the most part, you know, because Draven mains are just better than you add it. So more often than not, you'll find that the champion is banned away from those teams than picked, especially against them. But that was a first rotation pick of a Draven. No idea what the enemy bottom lane was going to be. Locks it in. He saw a Swain, and you could assume that it was going bottom for certain. But that's such an aggressive choice. And now he's against a Pyke Swain. Does a lot of damage, has a good coupling of crowd control as a duo, and can really dismantle an AD carry. That's where the Tahm Kench, I think, comes into play as a super crucial factor.
Yeah, so I have no idea why Tyler 1 is complaining about crit items needing to be reverted on Twitter. That's the only champion he can play anyway. Seems like Y4's playing in a professional match, so why are you complaining? But
I don't know if we're talking about complaining more than screaming, but he did it, so you're not wrong.
You are right, though. Very, very interesting matchup with the Swain being thrown into the bottom lane with Pike. We've seen what Swain can do in the bottom lane. Any form of crowd control that hits, he adds another additional layer, provides decent amounts of damage. Well, very safe bottom lane, especially when he hits level 6. A couple of teams have tried to attack it nice and early, but BLG have got a unique jungle pick, something that we saw during Spring Split, now being showcased in Summer Split for Mianhua, Jax of the jungle.
Yeah, this Jax in the jungle role. Again, we suspected it may go towards the AD carry position, but early rotation stays exactly where it was picked. Now, Jax is one of those champions that feels snowbally in the jungle position. BLG are not a team that feels snowbally by design. They're a fairly slow, methodical, known as the team fighters, as their old school style of play. That still rings true as none of the rosters really changed, but Mianhua, that shouldn't mean a great deal for them. They should still get the team fights. But can the Jax do that when he falls behind early if LGD have that early pressure?
Hey, Amazing J has 100% initiation. Who knows? Let's see what he can do on this Darius pick in the top lane. The Bruisers going up against a man who wants to spotlight in Draven, and Mundo who goes wherever the hell he damn pleases. Let's get on to Summoner's Rift. Game number 1, LGD taking on BLG.
Fair enough.
They've fallen asleep a bit.
Oh, there they are.
I don't blame them, though. So if you're new to the LPL, the teams always take turns in chanting, and it's always the blue side that goes first. So since they're in the LGD arena, it's the BLG fans that have traveled there. LGD's arena has massage chairs, so BLG fans probably fell asleep, you know, a bit too comfortable, a little bit too relaxed. Forgot that they had to chant for their team, but they still got there eventually. You can also hear the home crowd from Hangzhou cheering on LGD, despite them being 0-5 at the moment. Disappointing start for them in the Summer Split.
Now, we've started off with both junglers on the opposite side of the map going towards their red buff. Amy will be a slower clear jungler, and there's an early ward to spot him here anyway, so the gank should not work. Amazing J can play this one out as he likes, however, because he can pretend that he doesn't know, perhaps waste some time. The risk is, of course, dying to a level 2 red buff Camille.
And we've seen that already. Kasa tried to get a gank going in the bottom lane, which his opponents disrespected. On top of a ward, he got the gank, was able to get summoner spells and the kill for his team, so it's difficult to try and feign that when you also at the same time know you have that vision. You need to play safe.
I mean, if you're against the Camille, you know you're getting ganked at level 2. That's just the way Camille's have been playing, especially in the LPL. Perhaps not elsewhere, but always here. And more often than not, they've been successful, even if someone knows that they're there. That's just how good they are at ganking. As we get to look towards the bottom lane, the place where neither jungler is moving towards yet.
No, Mianhua path immediately towards top side of the map. He's still level 2. Only has red buff available and is looking to see if he can go for a gank against Juno. Amazing J not close enough just yet. Counter-Strike forces a flash, however. Very early flash. And already action in the bottom lane as well. PYL taking some damage. Sorry, Y4 taking some damage. PYL is able to save him.
Yeah, Tomkench able to assist the Draven, but also puts himself in melee range of an abundance of damage, something that will continue as this lane plays out. Now, we mentioned it in Champ Select, but Draven, whenever he throws an axe and has the designated landing area, Pike can just hit a hook for free. There's a chance that through this lane, you see a lot of that happening, especially when there's a Swain to pressure areas. These two have such an oppressive laning phase together.
Curious micro interaction in that bottom lane as well. Jinzhao was able to hit the nether move and pulled back Draven away from picking up an axe. So that could be one way of stopping Y4 from getting those stacks as well. We got to check in with the top side of the map. Flash was burnt by Jinu and he was forced back to base. So didn't use his teleport to get back into that lane, but there's a gank going to the mid lane as well. Athena getting locked down. Yuki tries to put him to sleep, gets that damage. We'll throw out the paddle star, but that's all he really gets. A summoner spell, a bit of a trade. Amy with another good gank.
Yeah, forces a bit of damage out onto Athena, someone that's pretty hard to get damage onto, and most importantly, he just came back from base. So that was a really nice trade against Athena there, running the cheesiest skin that I've seen for a Galio possible.
That's what I thought you were going to start with when you said most importantly, he's running the cheesiest skin possible.
Nah, it's not the most important thing, it's just... Look, it's on the tier list.
Well, Bryce, Siege, and Paul would disagree with you. That is the most important thing to talk about.
Well, I'm not Bryce, Siege, and Paul, innit?
Yeah, I know you're not. That's unfortunate, really.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh, that hurts.
Don't you want to be Big Brick?
That hurt.
Checking in with the top lane matchup we were talking about earlier. Darius was able to force Juno back to base. Someone was burnt there, so that top side is doing well for BLG. It means Mianhua, moving down towards the bottom side of the map, could add a little bit more pressure to Athena or Jin Zhao's lane.
Yeah, I think ultimately we've seen Amy prioritize ganking a bit more than he has farming as well. So super low health needs to go back to base, which means that Mianhua does have timing. And above that, he'll have the experience lead. Ultimately, it looks like he's in a position to make a play, but at this point in the game, red buffs will expire, gank opportunities decrease by a lot. As you can see, they're gone. He's just got a blue.
Yep, just picking up as much farm as possible. As you mentioned, Amy goes back to base, picks up his smite item nice and early, already seeing that coming out of Mianhua. Yuki? Alright, cool. You know, just throw the paddle start your own minions, that's fine.
I don't think he actually wanted to hit the wave with it, but just chose to press the Q2 anyway, because you can. He wants to hold the wave in a... You see how he's forward now. The wave's coming towards him because of the minions. He can still pressure the Galio, and Galio without a flash is a Galio that can absolutely die.
Is that the only reason why Yuki's leaving the lane like that? Just to add a bit more pressure onto Galio? Because even though, yes, he doesn't have flash, he can die easy, but things like this can happen. Mianhua can sit in his back pocket and keep him safe.
Yeah, but that's also time that Mianhua's not jungling, not getting an experience lead, not scaling up to 6, and it doesn't mean that he has kill threat over Yuki either, because remember the summoners are there, it's still a cleanse and a heal. Pressure belongs to LGD through the mid lane, and that opens up the jungle for plays.
Well, we even just saw a big trouble bubble into Paddle Star combo, and Athena looked like he didn't take too much damage at all. But it is a full bruiser composition, or almost a full bruiser composition coming out from BLG. What do we expect out of them? How do they win this match with all the bruisers they've picked up?
When you look at BLG's composition, the engage is one of the weirder things. It's definitely a pick comp between them both, because jungler's just going to meet each other and run away.
Smack him with the lantern.
Road and Jin Zhao would be the place that you look at. You know, the bottom lane getting ahead or being successful in any way, even shows that they could use their crowd control as engage tools for pick, and the pick follows up very nicely. They're also, you know, BLG's composition is super good at kiting and counter engaging. I think a lot of this game to them will be harder to execute style of team fighting, but if they start it with a 4v5 because they get the pick, then it doesn't really matter what happens after that point. They've got enough damage. I think that's going to be a very difficult to start, but easy to follow up style of comp.
I mean, decent laning phase for them as well. Darius going up against Dr. Mundo. Athena should be able to neutralize that Zoe lane, and Mianhua's had a fine time in the jungle so far. So you're right, we should look towards that bottom lane and see what's going on as we talk about that Y4 being pulled back again. Full stacks of the soul stacks being picked up by Jin Zhao.
It's just so oppressive to deal with Swains in the bottom lane. The amount of AD carries we've seen get hit by it, it makes you choose. You know, do I want to get damage onto the turret? Or do I want to just not get pulled in and take half of my health? But if I want to win lane, I have to hit the turret. There's no real winning scenario.
I mean, especially when you're a Draven, you want to cash in as many adoration stacks as you possibly can, as early as you possibly can. Make use of that passive. Every time you pick up an axe, get a CS, get one stack that adds gold to your next kill. But he's paired up with a Tahm Kench. Doesn't have the best kill pressure, still has some, and is packing Ignite as well. But definitely a difficult lane to execute on cashing in those stacks. Do LG look towards a pick somewhere in the mid game, similar to what BLG are trying to do almost?
Yeah, both compositions are pretty good at picking people off. Between a Zoe and a Camille, I would like to see the 2v2 for those guys. But they can actually transition down to the bottom lane and start getting Y4 rolling. If they can get a kill under the Draven, kill under the AD carry, they'll set themselves up very nicely moving into the mid game. But at the same time, a 0-0 scoreline across the board, hitting mid game, hitting the one item spikes, doesn't necessarily disadvantage anyone. Because right now, whilst Darius is doing well top lane and getting a CS lead, bottom lane's doing well, the mid lane's doing well for LGD, so there are other things at play that helps them out.
Because bottom lane's fairly even, like 5 to 6 CS maybe differentiates Y4 as well as Jin Zhao based on who's going to be pushing up against who. So slight advantage for Draven, but big advantage for Zoe, big advantage for Darius. We might see a small skirmish here. Mianhua puts a ward down, spots out Amy. Already have the sweeper available, so gets rid of that one. They're just fighting for control over this river, and Scuttle Crab did just spawn. One of the random Scuttle Crab spawns. Seems like that's what Mianhua wants to fight for.
Now it's interesting to watch how this 2v2 would play out. Jax with the Galio, the ultimate from Athena, can be a big deal, especially if Camille tries to engage and use the ultimate of her own. So I think you're just looking at what was a smite war, and a lot of the pressure and control seems to belong to BLG.
Oh. He still goes 9-9, but takes no damage for it. It's alright. They put Scuttle Crab to sleep, and BLG hit him into the river even further, picking up that random Scuttle. Mianhuan's actually looking to bottom lane and teleport as well, coming out from Amazing J, looking for the flank. POL to flash away first. Can still save Y4, but the double pullback! That's your 100% initiation! Amazing J, come on and slam! First blood, BLG!
Athena's still in trouble in the middle lane. Look at Yuki, see if he can cover the distance.
Doesn't want to flash, doesn't want to portal jump afterwards, decides not to follow up with that kill. But Road looking to try and collapse as well. Amy in a precarious situation, picks up a flash for himself, gets away, takes Athena's summoner spell, but big play coming out of BLG.
Yeah, they're able to disengage here though, respectively. LGD in the middle lane, they get the flash from Athena off cooldown and the teleport to be used, but Athena has the ultimate. So BLG, they start the Drake, they look towards the objective after their first successful kill in the bottom lane. And it's Amazing J, unsurprisingly of course, that comes down and tries to make that one happen.
Burnt both his summoner spells, but was already doing fine in the top lane. Had a single base advantage over Jinnu. And also opens up Mianhua with the opportunity to pick up the first dragon of the game, as well as the first kill. So the gold is still fairly even, but picking up objectives nice and early for BLG. Good start for them.
They could have maybe looked towards pressuring the turret, but I think a super early Ocean Drake is just invaluable for a team. You know, continuing laning phase, having an Ocean Dragon just feels like everyone's Garen a little bit there with his passive running. And everyone wants to feel a little bit like Garen.
You're Garen, I'm Garen, everyone's Garen. You get a Garen,
in fact,
you get a Garen.
You play Garen, all you can say is I am Garen.
That is actually the best part about playing Garen. You just say, I'm Garen, that's your shot calling. I'm hoping that when Amazing J does, he does the same thing, but big fight in the bottom lane. Jin Jiao flashing into the wall. Y4 getting good damage off, but the ultimate doesn't come through. PYL eats him up, spits him back out. LGD cash in the bottom lane, picking up a kill, and Rhodes forced to flash away.
But Y4 doesn't get the kills, he doesn't get the bounty stacks. PYL does too much damage with the consume, so unfortunately the stacks aren't secured. The lane isn't outright won by LGD by any means.
Still picking up a pick in the bottom lane, better than nothing for LGD. They already chipped away at this turret quite successfully.
Yeah, now they get the pressure and even a teleport to be used by the Swain, of course, so keep that in mind.
Amy is here, however. Zoe is trying to cheat down into the bottom lane too. Good pullback, but save coming out from PYL, working well with Blindfold to make sure he can still be as aggressive as possible.
You don't have flash, Athena. Sorry, mate. Can't cover that distance. 3 people looking at the middle lane. Bottom lane's still the one that's at risk of dying. Y4 does need to get some mana back though. Not the most comfortable position to take the turret now, but a stone's throw away later. Or just an Amy coming down, and it may well do so.
Gold's still dead even, but Mianhua finds another Scuttle Crab for himself. Once again, a fight in the mid lane. No stun coming out from the Camille. Ultimate is available, locks him down. Athena taking way too much damage. Cleanse being popped to get away from the taunt. Athena falls. LGD get a pick in the mid lane.
Yeah, not only does Cleanse get rid of the taunt and activate Zoe's W, so dealing extra damage enough to secure the kill there, makes up for the lack of Ignite that Yuki otherwise would have. So well done from LGD. And now the pressure comes from mid lane to bottom. It's not just a kill. That kill means a turret. LGD is starting the snowball early.
They're cheating down to the bottom side again. Yuki throwing out a couple of paddle stars. Only hits a minion with the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. However, you're right, Rusty. They're moving towards this turret. Should be the first turret of the game as well. LGD take down the structure.
Solo gold ideally goes to Y4, and that's exactly what they'll do. 650 gold. May as well be a bounty for him. If he gets the kill to boot on top of that, well, the numbers are just going to be through the roof and rather obnoxious. They've done very well here, LGD, to start this early game off. And a lot of it comes from just the jungle ganks and mid lane control again.
Making sure they have the control over Galio. He has not been able to rotate. Mianhua takes what he can. That'll be a Rift Scuttle. Jinnu's going to try and chase him down. Missed the first cup throw, so not able to slow down Jax. But good response coming out from BLG, making sure they don't bleed out and still trade objectives when they're behind.
Man, every time we look mid lane, it's just frustrating to watch. Yuki's hitting everything. There's nothing Athena can do. If he wants to farm that wave, he's going to have to tank it. A tragic place to be for a Galio. You're looking towards the skirmishes, the team fights. You need something a bit more coordinated. The Zoe just continues to get the push, especially until he gets AP, and he only clears half the wave with a spell.
Like you said, we haven't seen Galio for a while. Nothing was changed about him after his rework. Many nerfs were thrown his way. He was a little bit strong. He even went AP at one point and was one-shotting people to the point where a patch had to be thrown in right away. But since the chaotic change to the meta moving into summer split, we haven't seen too much of Galio. We know he still exists. keeping track of his performance so far. Locked down in lane, yet to see him in team fights, but this could be one point where he rotates down to, because BLG are going to try and react, but they push off their own. Rift Herald's being thrown into the bottom lane.
Oh, wow.
LGD have lane swapped as well. Y4 and PYL on the top side of the map, so this is just going to be a straight up race for turrets.
This is actually BLG going for a power play for 2 turrets from the looks of it. Constant pressure down here, Jinu by himself against the Rift Herald. You can see PYL going back to base. Will have to use his ultimate to cover distance.
But he doesn't have Y4 with him, so the ultimate can cover the distance. However, BLG settle for the single turret and rotate towards the mid lane. Good control wards and wards placed around the blue side of LGD's jungle, means they have direct access, and LGD, not too many ways to get access to this mid lane tower and prevent the damage that BLG will dish out.
Oh, Jesus. I forgot that bug still exists. Okay. Every time it goes invisible, prepare yourself. 150% volume. Pyke's running through, but nice moves from BLG. Actually going from bottom lane, knowing that they weren't going to be able to take that one with how quickly Yuki roamed, with how quickly Yuki was able to translate to the bottom lane. So they go mid. There's a wave set up from Athena. The communication seems to be there from the team overall. It's refreshing to see that from BLG.
They get one turret, continue to trade even though they are slightly behind, but nowhere out of this game just yet. We take a look at the gold score at the moment, very even top side of the map. Jungle slight lead for Mianhua, who has been controlling Scuttle Crabs for most of this match. But it's 1,000 gold for the mid lane, as well as 1,000 gold for the bottom lane of LGD. Slight leads for their 2 carries.
Item spikes more importantly as well. So they've got that lead. Now they've completed a Bloodthirster with the pickaxe. Not a pickaxe, he changed his mind. Hang on.
Put to sleep, lots of damage, has to use the stopwatch to stay alive. Yuki holding on to the pedal star! Yuki with the snipe, what a play!
Times it perfectly, was about to run out of the second Q on the paddle star, but gets it just at the end. Max range is perfect from Yuki, very impressive from the mid laner of LGD. Shows that he's got that mastery of Zoe well and truly down.
He said you can ban my Irelia, that doesn't matter, I'll play Zoe anyway, having a great game so far. LGD find another pick for themselves onto the Galio, not onto Galio, sorry, onto Swain. And then move straight towards the Dragon Pit, contesting for Infernal Dragon. You already talked about the item power spikes. Luden being picked up, Sunfire's cape on Dr. Mundo, even a Bloodthirster for Draven. They lock down Mianhua, forced to flash away. They eat up Camille, keeping her nice and safe. Mianhua Ignite is ticking, and Battlestar knocks Amazing J low. But LG again, they find a pick, they look for the skirmish, and they take an objective.
LGD's starting to run rampant around the Rift right now. Not just the item spikes, the objectives falling 2-1 in turrets. And they get that Drake as a follow-up. It was the Ocean they gave away earlier, but the Infernal they can pick up right now. Really starting to feel themselves. Yuki really starting to feel it above all else. And I think that's the place they'll continue to focus time after time. As Jin Zhao caught out of position. This Q, timed to absolute perfection. It was almost past the Swain. But he had to do that or he wouldn't have had a second Q to throw at all.
Beautiful. Road didn't know which way to block.
They also didn't know which way to hook. He timed it wrong. I haven't seen a lot from his Pyke right now that I'm liking.
No, we haven't seen too much at all. The laning phase was fairly passive. Y4 and PYL kept them pushed in very early on. Road was trying to do his best, but every time anyone got close to Draven, PYL just made sure that he stayed safe. So besides, I mean, because when we saw champions like Thresh release, for example, he had very strong lane presence, very good kill presence as well. But moving into the mid and late game, he had a lot of utility to provide for the team. What does Pyke add? Because it seems like he's a laning phase base champion that's coming out of laning phase with not too much.
I mean, he adds pick and damage. You know, above all else, he's got a lot of utility there and he can follow up with his team. Anything that has a reset is valuable in team fighting, right? So the fact that he can provide damage on a reset is always going to be nice. It's ranged as well. He's got stuns and he's got hooks. So he's got a lot there. It's not going to be like a Thresh Lantern for helping the team by any means, but the hooks are similar in that respect.
Oh no. I just realized that BLG have 4 players that can dunk in this game, Rusty.
Pyke Darius. Okay, so Pyke Darius is my favorite interaction. I've played this before in solo queue when Pyke first came out. That was all I played.
Okay, why?
Can be vouched for that. The reason I like this matchup is that it doesn't matter who gets the dunk. If you both dunk the same target, you both still reset. There's a grace period in Pyke, right? And I was playing with a Darius, and we both got a quadra kill, but he stole all 4. So I just got 4 resets whilst he got all 4 kills.
I think he was just better than you.
Well, he was faster.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he was better.
I mean, if you're faster, normally you're better, right? I mean, Usain Bolt's the fastest sprinter.
I don't know, he was a Diamond 4 player.
You were what, Diamond 5? 3? Somewhere there?
3.
Nah. That can't be right.
On the climb, Miley Cyrusing, mate, all the way up.
Diamond 2. You can't be one rank below
You're
me.
a liar.
It's not true.
Yes, you are not Diamond 2.
Yes, I am.
Uh-huh.
Plat's better than Diamond, so I'm Plat 2. That's okay.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Let's see how the dunks come out from BLG, because, again, Bruiser-based comp, I mean, Darius and Jax can come on and slam as well, whereas Swain just stands there and says, I've got lots of crows! What's up?
Well, Swain and Jax are pretty consistent damage output. Galio's able to... You know, there's not really a tank on the side of BLG, but the champions have got tankiness built into their kits in certain ways. You know, Amazing J with Darius has the heals on his Q. Yep. It's ridiculous, especially once he starts fully stacking people up and can chase them down on top of all of that. For the Jax, he's got the Counter-Strike. Yuki, he got him.
Gets the pick, thrown back by Jin Zhao. Yuki just flashes away, he's perfectly fine. Teleport's now coming in. Amy looked to lock someone down. Galio stuck in the Hextech arena. Finally gets back out. Junu's the target, but it's a Dr. Mundo. He'll go where he pleases. Jin Zhao the backline, taking a lot of damage. Galio jumps in, gets the first slam, but LGD get the first kill, taking down the chicken as well. That looked like a raptor to them. Yuki jumps back in, hops back out. Jax will smack him with the lantern, but a double kill being picked up by Draven of all champions. Only Road left alive. Can't find a way to get into Fog of War, and the ace comes out from LGD.
LGD get the 5 clean kills. Only Yuki going down, but he used summoners at the start, so they just prey upon him. Desperate stuff, it felt like, from BLG there. And LGD able to force the collapse, force the team fight. They have snowballed now, Fish. They are well and truly online, and they're pushing down mid.
8 and 2 in kills being picked up by LGD. 7,000 gold ahead of BLG. 2 turrets being pushed down off the back of that team fight. A reactionary play, and one they play successfully.
I'm telling you, this team's getting better every time we see them. They've changed coaches, they've changed players. Now they're winning team fights after winning early games. Yuki's on fire. This fight starts off with Yuki being caught out of position. Of course, he survives and goes forwards to try and assist his team. Gets Amazing J off the bat first. Now, he is the only person that does die in the end here. I think it's just because he steps up a bit much there, which is absolutely what he does. Manhwa, of course, sacrifices himself for that. Oh, God. Road's back. But Road does ultimately die. Amy's just a bit too long range there. Can't walk in a straight line through the jungle, unfortunately.
No, you can't. And now LGD with those picks, with the turrets being taken out as well, have picked up a couple of strong items for themselves. Janu was already difficult to deal with in that last team fight. Well, now he's got a Spirit Visage. Amazing J. I don't think you want to fight this Dr. Mundo anymore.
Difficult to deal with?
Oh no, that's a Darius against Dr. Mundo. And Dr. Mundo's winning the matchup. Slam dunk comes out from Amazing J, but it's a teleport that gets forced out of Athena.
Yeah, forced and cancelled by Athena. If you're teleporting to help your top laner, then things have gone a bit awry. I think that's fair to say. They are super big. You mentioned those item spikes. The one that stands out to me is the Death Stance on Y4. That is a big boy running around in the AD carry position. Now that Draven has snowballed, he's got the kills. He got the first turret goal by himself. Unstoppable.
He might be an AD carry, but now he's just going to heal up through everything and take even less damage. I mean, Athena did well in that last fight. Hit 5 people with his ultimate, kept someone alive for a bit longer.
Yeah.
But that's it. No one else could really follow up. The bruises just fell apart to the composition that LGD have.
It's like what we mentioned before. What happens when the Jax falls behind is a similar idea with the Darius. He only hit Mundo. And like it said, he dealt 800 damage, but most of it was hitting a tank that was healing it back up after.
Hello, Mianhua?
I mean, he got it.
He got the dragon, but he's probably going to fall for this. PYL flashes forward, wants to pick up that kill. Mianhua goes over the wall as well, knows that there's no more flash from the Draven, just going to go on a wild goose chase into the base. Yuki throws out a paddle star. They're not going to be able to collapse on Darius. Did Mianhua get out? I think the cup's going to be thrown at him in a second. Oh, he's found him.
Oh, now he's taking damage as well. He doesn't know where to go. Burn him! Burn him! Oh, he threw a cleaver.
Imagine if he had a real weapon.
I mean, he got killed by a trophy fish. I don't think it's too big of a deal.
Have you held the Summoner's Cup before? That thing is heavy.
I'm sure the lantern is as well, but it's not a real weapon.
I mean, I'll ask Uzi at the end of the year how heavy the cup actually is when he lifts the trophy.
Manhwa dead. Baron's actually a place that they're just going to start straight away.
There's no jungler available for BLG, so it means this should be an easy pick for them. Let's see if BLG decide to try and fight this 4-on-5. So far down in gold as well. Road tries to jump in first, but he dies immediately. Gives access to Athena, but now it's a 3-on-5. Looking for damage in the back lines. Amazing J's been locked down by Jinu. Already going to fall, get some good damage, but that's it. 1 by 1, BLG hit the floor, and they move straight back towards Baron.
They're just too tanky, and they deal way too much damage. damage at this stage. They're too far ahead. LGD will secure the Baron if Amy can survive as well. That would be nice.
Junu's too tanky. Smite goes down. Mianhua does respawn. But LGD on fire in this first game.
Certainly are, and of course that was, we called the last fight desperate. Well, that was even more desperate from BLG. They didn't have their jungler, he died doing the Drake. When you're behind in a game like this, you can't afford to try and sneak those objectives away if they catch you out of position. Road just dies at the start of the fight. He's too squishy. Doesn't really matter in that case, so he goes down. Cute idea from BLG though, through that desperation. They utilize the pike to try and close distance, get the fight off. Athena lives for a long time. You saw some good damage from Jin Zhao as well. Maybe if the gold was dead even at that fight, they would have won. But even then, not going to happen.
Now it just looks all too difficult. 10,000 is the lead that LGD have. Baron buff to work with. And if you thought Y4, the main carry on the team at the moment, was difficult to kill because of Bloodthirster and Death Stance, he now has a Guardian Angel to top it all off.
Can't be stopped. Actually cannot be stopped, by the way. He's Aatrox Q, by the way. Unstoppable.
You can not count out BLG, however, no matter how far behind. This is the Miracle Team.
Oh, yeah.
We're running with that narrative again, Rusty. They're the Miracle Team. They've got a ward somewhere they can try. No, I actually think there's no hope whatsoever for them.
They're 1 and 4 in the summer split. Those miracles have not been seen yet, and now they are 10,000 down against the last place team in the league. But here we go.
Oh, they caught out the jungler though, Rusty. That's one person from LGD falling. Road can't find the hook, and Jinu turns around with his ultimate on, taking little to no damage. Yuki puts one member to sleep, but that gives LGD the time to retreat. They get the inhibitor turret and inhibitor back off towards their base.
Oh, Amy, you adorable man. Just goes down for no particular reason. Pulled a Condi, as I'm going to call that one now, because pretty much the same point in the map when he chose to make that mistake. No matter, they get the inhibitor though. LGD is still able to reset. They just have to wait for Amy to come back alive. So this does buy a lot of time with the Baron that won't be utilized perfectly by LGD anymore.
He goes down with his ship. He closes his eyes and surrenders, Rusty.
I had one of those yesterday, Fish.
There's no white flag above his head.
That was iBoy. If you didn't see that, iBoy actually put up the white flag emote once he was being dove on the turret.
We had SMLZ as well when they were playing the match against OMG. When he was able to get that victory against his former squad, he waved the right flag as well. He's like, hello. Do you remember me? We went to Rift Rivals together.
I mean, LGD poised now, Fish, I would say. With 50 seconds of the Baron, maybe not to utilize it to end the game by any means, but another inhib should fall down, I would expect.
I mean,
but they may pick apart the map to do so, just because that Baron is about to subside.
They could take their time, though, really. 10,000 gold, 27 minutes into the match. LGD have all the tools to work with to try and close out this game, and it's going to take a miracle and then a few more for BLG to try and find a way back into this one.
Yeah, this isn't a one team fight win type of scenario for BLG. Even if they win a team fight from this deficit, it means one after.
Oh no! He's gone.
He's done it again.
That's the wrong road. That's a one-way trip to hell at the moment. They start the fight. Amazing J will heal back up slightly, but falls. Double kill B picked up already. Looking for the next few. And the Guardian Angel gets popped, and Y4 in some trouble. Mianhua trying to turn this one around. LGD trying to fight through it all. There's just not enough damage at the moment. Jin Zhao finally falls. Y4 in trouble. Mianhua with a double, but it's just not enough. It looks close coming out from BLG, but LGD tighten the screws. They're moving towards the Nexus.
And that'll be all she wrote for LGD. With the first game victory, they smashed BLG.
BLG tried and tried with their bruiser comp, but Draven was just too much in the end. LGD picked them apart one by one. Game 1 goes to the team from Hangzhou.
It's super tragic for BLG. You know, we didn't get to see a lot from them at all. The bottom lane felt super lacking. They were just exploited by the Draven and the Tahm Kench time and again. But for me, a lot of it isn't through the bottom lane 2v2 specifically, though I think they could clean it up a bit more. It was the mid lane. It was the fact that Athena on this Galio couldn't get anything done. He was just bodied by Yuki, constantly targeted by the Zoe and beaten down. And that affected the jungle position as well. Those early ganks from Amy proving to be very useful.
Very useful. And that was their pick composition working incredibly well. Hello! LLO.QQ.com is where you go for all your LPL action. You can find a schedule, buy tickets, do a lot more over there.
And stats.
And stats.
We have stats.
That's what we're looking for, all the statistics. Just like Amazing J. Still 100% in initiations, by the way. He had initiation bottom lane. He's now got 5 to his name.
I don't know if that carried through for either way. Doesn't matter.
Has to be an initiation. If it's not, I'm going to go to the stats team. Someone's getting a backhand.
Sure, Fish. You know what? That stat can stay. We'll run with the Amazing J narrative. Let's do it. 5 initiations. 100. He's the king of top lane.
He's the king of top lane, but unfortunately not the king of that match. LGD reigns supreme. They're able to pick up a game 1 victory. You were talking about their pick composition. We said that BLG had a similar strategy with the draft that they picked up for that first match. It just felt like the puzzle pieces for LGD fit together much nicer. They had more champions that could fulfill that pick composition.
Yeah, looking at LGD's draft, I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me, I was like, why is this happening, was the first pick Draven. I think the reason that you would see this, Y4 is seemingly a Draven player, but first and foremost, they saw the Swain. They're like, we can play the Draven into the Swain if we can get the Tahm-Kench afterwards to make this matchup work. They didn't know what the support would be, and for me, what's curious is that they get to last pick Tahm-Kench. But I mean, ultimately, if you see an AD carry right now in the meta, you know that Tahm-Kench is the most likely champion to be coupled with it. So I was more confused on BLG's part. Why would they prioritize the Pyke when there's a Tahm-Kench? Or why would they not ban the Tahm-Kench over the Morgana, perhaps, when there's a Pyke as well?
I mean, the last 2 bans that came up from BLG was Singed as well as Morgana. I mean, Morgana kind of makes sense, can fulfill a similar role to the Tahm-Kench, provide the Black Shield to make sure that he stays safe in lane. But Singed, top side of the map, it seems like LGD were comfortable with sacrificing that top lane. It's a Darius against Dr. Mundo, something that we've seen over and over again. And quite a few teams now, when they get this particular matchup, they don't pressure the top side of the map. They use it to try and pressure other sides of the map, which we didn't see too much of coming out from BLG, just besides the Scuttle Crab contest to come out from Minhwa.
And you kind of, like, for BLG with execution, what you wanted to see was the Darius left alone on the island. You actually want to see him isolated with the Mundo and get the CS advantage. He was getting that. It wasn't a significant one. I think that's where the jungle pressure, you know, it was an invisible influence, but it was absolutely there, reduced the CS lead. You bring that lead from the Darius to the bottom lane. And that was the one thing that BLG did that was very good. That early teleport from Amazing J, that early gank into the bottom lane where they find a kill under the Tahm-Kench. But from there, nothing was able to be translated beyond that because of the mid lane. So in terms of like BLG's draft and how they wanted to execute it, they couldn't, just because Yuki was too good.
Yuki was playing really well in Zoe, and Zoe's just a pick that you have to watch out for. I mean, teams like Suning ban it 100% of the games they play. They don't care who they're playing against, they just don't want to play against Zoe, and the fact it was Yuki that picked up the MVP off the back of that match. Galio was such a weird pick to go into it. Yes, Kit used to be able to neutralize lanes, but didn't seem to be the case in this matchup.
It still kind of neutralized it, you know. I don't think that Zoe was getting carried away with the game. A lot of the kills were pot shots or jungle interventions as to why they came out at all. But he did play super cleanly. There were some kills in there amongst those 4 that he has that were well earned that he did by himself. I think that, you know, Yuki is the MVP for certain in this first game, but I would give extra mentions to Amy for his early ganks. The level 2 top lane clearly didn't work, but the level 3 mid lane shortly afterwards perhaps not as expected, and it was timed incredibly well. And the thing that people don't understand in League of Legends, you know, is like, when you're watching it as a spectator, you see someone teleport, you see them lose half their health straight away, you're like, well, he's alive. But he just teleported, so it's actually a bigger deal than you'd expect, right? And it started Yuki's snowball into the fights you get to see now.
I mean, we saw earlier that pick that they had in the mid lane. Beautiful play coming out for Yuki. Put Swain to sleep, did all the damage in that fight as well. And the big Baron fights as well. This is where they try to fight 4 on 5 and LGD tore them apart.
And you can't really play BLG's composition too well into the Zoe of LGD. When you think about it, you know, you've got a Pyke hook, you've got a Darius pull in as well, you've got a, you know, Swain one, but with all of that, Zoe just goes back to the portal. So there's no way to actually kill the carry of LGD, and you can see it here in the team fights. Yuki just constantly dealing damage, unimpeded, unable to be stopped. And even when BLG get close with a 10k gold deficit, perhaps the miracle on the table, not a chance, right? Because Yuki's able to do it.
I mean, poor performance on a couple of the champions that he had throughout the start of Summer Split. Irelia was one that stood out. That was banned away straight away by BLG. They wanted nothing to do with the Irelia coming in the mid lane for Yuki. Seems like Zoe was one of those champions as well. MVP performance being picked up by Yuki in that first match, and LGD have a game 1 victory. We're going to go into a very quick break, but we'll be back with game number 2 in just a bit.
不破不立，只有经历巨变，老干爹才能重获新生。